Hello again, everybody. Welcome in to Willy and DMase here on 102.5 The Game. Willy Donick here with you. Special guest host Adam Vingan on my right. Connor Newt behind the board as we continue our summer extravaganza here on the show. Derek Mason continues to tour Europe. He'll be back with his family starting on Monday, and we will proceed. And, of course, Monday is going to be a big day on the show with NHL free agency coming on July 1st. So it is going to be busy. The NHL draft is Friday night. Great interview with Barry Trotz yesterday on Jared Stillman's show. Stillman and company. Jared is back as everybody kind of takes their turn getting away for a little bit and recharging the batteries. So we're glad to have all of you with us. What a night in television last night with the Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. You can't beat that. Even if you're not a huge hockey fan, Game 7 is Game 7, and it was a great game. And congratulations to the University of Tennessee for a national title. That is big-time stuff. Able to hang on and beat Texas A&M 6-5. It went all the way down to the last out, just like it went to the last second in Game 7. So it did not disappoint. Adam, good to be with you here in the studio. Yesterday I was coming at you from Boston, so today I think maybe a little bit more synergy here in the studio with everybody here.
I thought we did a good job considering the circumstances. Yeah. I hope that you were able to watch both games on the plane because, as we discussed yesterday, you were flying back to Nashville from Boston during the prime time slot for these games. And we talked about how you would figure out a way to watch both at the same time. Were you able to do that?
I was able to do it. Southwest Airlines does have the live TV option, and it was very, very fortunate that they had both ABC and ESPN and the limited band of channels that you get. But it was great coverage. It didn't skip at all. You worry about, does the Wi-Fi have to be something? It worked great. And so with very limited tech skills, which is good for me because I am not one of these guys that needs like 12 steps to get on access of this. I had all these visions of like a skipping stream or something like that would interrupt. But I actually got the two-screen action going last night. I was able to get two of my devices on there. I had my laptop open up to the College World Series game with no sound, and I was able to tune in to the hockey game on my phone with the headphones on. So I might as well have been at a sports bar. The time was flying, and my flight from Boston to Nashville was a nonstop flight. It timed out perfect because both games ended close to the same time, within 15 or 20 minutes of each other, and then the game ends and the flight's about to land. I was like, this worked out all right.
Yeah, it worked out great. But as you said, two great games. Congratulations to the Tennessee Volunteers on winning their first baseball national championship, though. If you're a Vanderbilt fan listening, you don't want to hear me congratulate the University of Tennessee in any capacity, and I guess we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. The Stanley Cup Final, Game 7 delivered, tight game, 2-1. The Panthers scored early. We talked about this yesterday. It was important for the Panthers to get that first goal because they trailed first in all three of their losses in the Stanley Cup Final, did not lead at any point during those three losses. They score a goal from Carter Verhaeghe, and you're thinking, all right, they're rocking and rolling. Then Matthias Janmark scores on a breakaway a few minutes later, and things get tight, but Sam Reinhart with a big goal late in the second period, and the Panthers hold on. I don't think the Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, Zach Hyman, Matthias Ekholm, Evan Bouchard, five-man unit left the ice in the third period. By the end, they were absolutely gassed. But I've already seen the celebration is already on in South Florida. I've seen a couple of videos this morning.
Where is the home base? Is it on the beach somewhere?
So I've seen two videos. I've seen one where I can't tell which player it is. I think it might be Sam Bennett, but I don't know, with a bunch of his teammates taking the Stanley Cup into the Atlantic Ocean, walked into the Atlantic Ocean, dove into the water.
I'll tell you, got to watch that riptide, though.
Yes.
That bad boy could be out to sea.
I'm not sure the salt water is great for the metal of the Stanley Cup. I mean, worse things have happened to the Stanley Cup than being dunked in the Atlantic Ocean. But I've already seen that, and I also saw a video of Matthew Tkachuk at the Elbow Room, which is a famed dive bar on the beach in Fort Lauderdale. He was on the balcony pouring beer out of the Stanley Cup into a fan's mouth on the street. So
perfect.
We've
spring break meets Stanley Cup champion.
Right. So we've already seen the Stanley Cup is off to a wild start to its time with the Florida Panthers. When I think about celebrations, I immediately go to the Capitals in 2018, diving into fountains in Georgetown and DC, and it was the bender to end all benders in the summer of 2018 for the Capitals, and I think that the Panthers might put them to shame based on what I've already seen on social media. But the question is, when it comes to the Tennessee Volunteers, and I heard Robbie and Joe talk about this morning, and I heard Jared talk about it yesterday before the game. Now that the Volunteers have won a national championship in baseball, have they overtaken or at least come neck to neck with Vanderbilt in that department? I saw a tweet from Bill Martin, who I believe works for the Tennessee athletic department, and he was talking about the past 4 years of Tennessee's baseball program, which includes 3 appearances in the College World Series, 1 national title, 4 straight super regionals, a 12-0 record in regional play, 2 SEC regular season titles, 2 SEC tournament titles, and 25 Major League Baseball draft picks and counting. Now, this is near and dear to your heart. Vanderbilt still has 1 more national championship than Tennessee, but based on the trajectory of the programs, can we officially say that Tennessee has caught up to or maybe even pulled a little ahead of Vanderbilt in the baseball department?
It depends on where you're starting your time period.
Right. From an historical context.
Currently,
yes.
In the last 4 years, I think you can't help but say Tennessee is the hottest program. Right. Tony Vitello, I thought, he did a great interview, and I think it was with, and I saw the tweet, somebody passed it along to me. I am assuming it was like their flagship radio person. It seemed like a Knoxville person who was along for the ride. I don't even know who the gentleman was. He did a good job. But Tony Vitello, he kind of got asked a question like that. He's like, "Oh man," and he threw a S word in there that I'm hoping it wasn't live radio that he was on, because can we please just enjoy this night before we're talking about all that stuff. But he talked about the SEC as a survival, right? Sometimes you get them, sometimes they get you, and that's kind of what the SEC baseball is. And now you've got Texas, who is going to look for a new coach. They fired the coach yesterday while we were on the air. We didn't even get to that because we didn't want to talk about that. It was about the final game yesterday. Texas is going to come in armed with a new coach, all kinds of NIL money, and a very deep talent pool in that state. Oklahoma's coming in. They're no slouch. They've got a good team. They've always had really good players. It's going to be a super league. It's going to be hard to dominate that league. I think it's going to run in cycles, especially with all of the turnover in rosters that we're seeing. But, 2021 through 2024, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that Tennessee has been the best team in the SEC. Now, if you're talking about the last 20 years, then that's a little different. I think Vanderbilt's far outclassed Tennessee in that time. It's not even close. Tennessee went through 10 years of basically nothing. They were at the doormat for a lot of years, while Vanderbilt has been consistently in the mix. I think Vanderbilt is going through a transition right now of evolving how they build their roster, right? Tim Corbin has always had elite classes, nationally recruited, that he tries to cultivate over 3 years and build championship teams that way. He cherishes player development and churning out players who not only can become good professionals, but good people. He wants to build people as well as great teams. It's harder to do that now. And we're going to talk to Vanderbilt's new basketball coach at 12:15 today, Greg Byington, who literally had to go get a roster from scratch. That's how crazy it was over there at Vanderbilt University. He literally, I don't know that he has a single player back from last year. Like, he had to get an entire roster of new players. That's an extreme case, but that's what's happening. And Tony Vitello talked about that last night during this interview that I saw, where he was like, I really respect the coaches in our league, especially the ones who have families because he was just talking about, he's alluding to the craziness. Like he's hoping Dylan Dreiling, the most outstanding player of the tournament, who hit the big home run to sort of seal it last night, although they needed it because it got back down to one run. Like he was really making a case, hoping he's coming back. That would be one less space he's got to fill. But that's what college coaches have to do. They have to almost get a whole new team every year because everybody's a free agent twice a year. How nuts is that?
It's a far cry from what it used to be when it came to college recruiting